That knot in your stomach, a racing heart, the silent, frantic calculation in your mind the moment someone asks you for something you don't want to give. It's just two letters. N-O. No. But for so many of us, it feels less like a word and more like a weapon turned against ourselves. Why does this simple refusal feel like you are risking everything, your relationships, your reputation, your very safety, just to protect a small piece of your time? This isn't a character flaw. It is a deeply ingrained survival strategy called the fawn response, the very root of people-pleasing. But this program, learned long ago, is not a life sentence. As the great psychiatrist Carl Jung reminded us, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. This conversation is our first step in making that choice. We will explore the story of a woman named Jennifer who learned to please others to survive. And we will walk through 3 gentle, practical steps to teach your nervous system that it is finally safe to say no. Let this be the moment you decide. If you are ready to start this journey, I invite you to declare it. Write in the comments below, I am ready to feel safe.
To understand why the word no gets caught in your throat, we must first understand that your body keeps a perfect memory. It remembers things your conscious mind has long since filed away. It remembers the lessons it learned, not through words, but through feeling, through survival. The knot in your stomach when you are asked for a favor, that is a memory. The impulse to agree before you've even considered the cost, that is a memory. You are not reacting to the present-day request. You are reacting to an echo. A ghost of a time when saying no was not just uncomfortable, but dangerous. To understand this, we need to go beyond the familiar idea of fight or flight. There is a 4th response, a lesser known but profoundly powerful one, the fawn response. It is not about fighting back. It is not about running away. It is about appeasing. It's a brilliant strategy, born in childhood, that says, if I make myself useful, helpful, and agreeable, maybe the threat will go away. If I can anticipate their needs and meet them before they are even expressed, I can diffuse the conflict before it even begins. If I am good, quiet, and easy, I will be safe. I will be loved. This is the foundational programming of people-pleasing. It is not a weakness. It was, at one time, your superpower. It was how you survived. Let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer was a good girl. From her earliest memories, she learned that her home was a place of emotional uncertainty. Her father wasn't physically violent, but his moods were like the weather, unpredictable and capable of turning stormy in an instant. A misplaced toy, a spilled glass of milk, a question asked at the wrong time could trigger a silent, heavy anger that would fill the entire house. Her mother, in turn, was a nervous peacekeeper, walking on eggshells, constantly trying to manage her husband's unspoken feelings. And so Jennifer, with the brilliant intuition of a child who needs to feel safe, learned her role. She learned to read the air. She learned to listen for the sound of her father's keys in the door. And in that split second, her small body would decide, was it a good day or a bad day? Should she make herself invisible or should she be extra helpful? She became an expert at anticipating needs. She would clear the table without being asked. She would keep her younger brother quiet. She would get good grades. She would never, ever be a problem. And when she succeeded, when she saw a rare smile on her father's face or felt the tension in her mother's shoulders relax, it was a profound, addictive relief. It was safety. It was, in her child's mind, love. Her nervous system created a powerful blueprint for survival. To be agreeable was to be safe. To have needs was to become a threat. Saying no was simply not part of this blueprint. To say no would be to risk disrupting the fragile peace. It would be to risk causing the storm. So the word itself, the very concept of it, was packed away. It became associated with danger. Now, let's fast forward. Jennifer is 42 years old. She's a nurse, a wife, a mother. A coworker asks her to cover a shift on her only day off. Her conscious adult mind knows she is exhausted. It knows she needs to rest. It knows she has a right to her own time. But her body remembers a different story. The moment the request is made, her heart starts to beat a little faster. That old, familiar knot tightens in her stomach. Her nervous system doesn't see a tired colleague asking for a favor. It sees a potential threat to the peace. It feels the shadow of her father's disapproval. Her coworker's potential disappointment feels in her body exactly like the dangerous anger she worked so hard to avoid as a child. So, what does she do? The fawn response kicks in, automatically. Before she can even think, she hears herself say, "Of course, no problem at all." The immediate feeling is that same old addictive relief. The conflict has been avoided. The other person is happy. She is safe. But it is followed moments later by a wave of resentment, a deep, hollow exhaustion, a feeling of being invisible, even to herself. Does this sound familiar? This is the hidden trauma behind so many of our lives. It is not about big dramatic events. It is about the quiet, chronic experience of learning that your needs are secondary, that your value lies in your utility to others, that your authenticity is a risk. Your logical brain knows you are an adult. It knows you are no longer in that childhood home, but your nervous system is still running that old survival software. It is still trying to protect that little girl. This is the first, most compassionate step in this entire journey. To understand that your inability to say no is not a failure of will. It is the enduring legacy of a brilliant survival strategy. The part of you that agrees to everything is not your enemy. It is your fiercely loyal but outdated protector. It learned to give everything away to keep you safe. And our work, the work we will begin today, is to gently, lovingly let that part of you know that the war is over, that you are safe now, and that it's finally okay to come home to yourself. Let's pause here for a moment, just for a breath. I want you to check in with your own body right now. Where do you feel it? That yes, that should be a no. Is it a tightness in your chest? A heaviness in your shoulders? Just notice it, without judgment. This awareness is the first glimmer of light in the dark. It is the beginning of a new conversation, not with your mind, but with the wisdom of your body.
That awareness you just felt in your body, that is the starting point. It is the place where the light gets in. Because you cannot think your way out of a problem that you did not think your way into. The fawn response is not a logical conclusion. It is a somatic, embodied state. It lives in your tissues, in your breath, in the rhythm of your heart. Therefore, the path to healing it must also be through the body. The work is not to fight the fawn response. You cannot shame it into submission. The work is to befriend your own nervous system. It's about sending it new information, gently, consistently. You are sending it the message it has been waiting its whole life to hear. The message that you are finally safe. We are going to explore 3 gentle, practical steps to begin this conversation with your body. These are not commands, they are invitations. They are practices to help you create a new internal state, a state from which a true no can finally emerge, not with force, but with peace. Our first invitation is the somatic sigh. It sounds almost too simple to be effective, but its power is profound. A somatic sigh is a very specific type of breath. It involves a double inhale through the nose, a short one, followed immediately by a longer one to completely fill the lungs, and then a long, slow, audible exhale through the mouth, like this. What is happening here? This is not just breathing. This is a biological reset button. That double inhale opens up the tiny air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli, and the long, slow exhale activates the vagus nerve, the great wandering nerve that connects your brain to your body. This is the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for rest and digestion and calm. When you sigh like this, you are manually down-regulating your own anxiety. You are telling your body on a cellular level that the threat has passed. You are safe enough to let go. I invited my client Jennifer to practice this, not when she was in a stressful situation, but during quiet moments, in her car before walking into the hospital, in the bathroom for 60 seconds between patients. I asked her to do just 3 of these sighs. At first, she felt silly. But after a few days, she noticed something. That familiar knot in her stomach, it was a little looser. The background hum of anxiety, it was a little quieter. She wasn't trying to fight her feelings. She was simply, gently changing her physiological state. She was creating a small island of safety inside herself from which she could operate. Our second invitation is to create the sacred pause. The fawn response is automatic. It is a reflex. A request comes in, and the yes comes out, often before you have even had a conscious thought. The sacred pause is how you interrupt this reflex. It is the creation of a tiny sliver of time, a space between the stimulus and your conditioned response. In that space lies your freedom. The pause can be verbal. It can be as simple as learning to say one of these phrases. Let me check my calendar and get back to you. I need to think about that for a bit. That's an interesting idea. I'll let you know. This is a revolutionary act for a people pleaser. You are not saying no to the request yet. You are saying no to the unspoken demand for an immediate answer. You are reclaiming your right to time. You are claiming your right to consult with yourself. When Jennifer's coworker asked her to cover another shift, instead of the automatic yes, She practiced her new script. She took a somatic sigh first, very quietly. Then she said, "Let me check on a few things and I'll text you in an hour." She told me later that her heart was pounding. It felt terrifying, but she did it. And in that hour, she did something she had never done before. She sat down and asked herself a question. What do I actually need? The answer that came back was clear. She needed to rest. That 1 hour of sacred pause allowed her to move from her body's automatic fear response to her mind's conscious wisdom. It allowed her to find her own truth before responding to someone else's request. This leads us to the third invitation: practice with micro-boundaries. You wouldn't go to the gym for the first time and try to lift the heaviest weight. You would start small, building strength over time. Setting boundaries works the same way. We don't start by saying no to our most difficult family member about a major holiday. We start with tiny, low-stakes acts of self-definition. These are the small rebellions that retrain your nervous system. A micro-boundary could be saying, "No thank you," when someone offers to top off your coffee and you don't really want more. Stating a simple preference, like, "I'd actually rather watch this movie instead." Letting a non-urgent phone call go to voicemail. Telling a friend, "I only have about 10 minutes to chat right now." Each of these acts, as small as they seem, sends a powerful message back to your inner child. The message is, "Look, I stated a preference. I said a tiny no, and what happened? Nothing. The world didn't end. You were not abandoned. You are still safe." Each micro-boundary you successfully set is a piece of evidence. You are gathering data for your nervous system, proving that the old rules no longer apply. You are building its tolerance for authenticity. You are proving to yourself in the smallest of ways that you are allowed to exist. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to take up space. These three practices, the somatic sigh, the sacred pause, the micro-boundary, they are not about becoming a different person. They are about creating the internal safety necessary for the real you to finally step forward. You are not building a wall. You are simply remembering where your own skin begins. You are tending to the garden of your own well-being so that you can finally have something to give that comes from a place of fullness, not from a place of fear.
As you begin to practice these small acts of self-reclamation, the somatic sigh, the sacred pause, the micro-boundary, a new and perhaps much louder fear will rise to meet you: the fear of other people's reactions. This is the front line of the battle. It is where most of us retreat. Because the fawn response was never just about us, it was about managing the ecosystem around us. It was about keeping others comfortable so that we could be safe. So when you stop playing your assigned role, the system will notice. Someone who is used to your immediate yes will feel the hesitation of your pause. Someone who is used to your compliance will feel the friction of your preference. They might get confused. They might get frustrated. They might even get angry. They may accuse you of being selfish, of changing, of not being the nice person they thought you were. And in that moment, every alarm bell in your nervous system will scream, "See, I told you, this is dangerous. Go back, apologize, make it right." This is the critical choice point. This is where the real transformation happens. Because you have to decide, whose discomfort are you more willing to bear? Your own, from a lifetime of self-abandonment, or theirs, from a single moment of your authenticity? Let's go back to Jennifer. After a week of practicing her pauses and her somatic sighs, the moment came. Her coworker, the same one, asked her again to cover a weekend shift. Jennifer took a quiet breath. She created that sacred pause, and in that space, she consulted with herself. She felt the exhaustion in her bones. She pictured her children, whom she had barely seen that week. She felt the deep, cellular need for rest. And she sent a text message back. It read, "I appreciate you asking, but I won't be able to this time. I need to use this weekend to recharge. I hope you find someone." She said her hands were shaking as she hit send. An immediate wave of guilt and terror washed over her. She imagined her coworker's anger, the gossip at the nurse's station, the feeling of having let someone down. For the next hour, she fought the overwhelming urge to send another text, to apologize, to take it all back. But she didn't. She just sat with the discomfort. She breathed through it. She reminded the little girl inside her, "We are safe. It's okay. We are allowed to rest." Her coworker's response when it came was simple. "No problem. Thanks for letting me know." That was it. The storm she had anticipated her entire life did not arrive, and in its place was a quiet, profound, and completely new feeling: integrity. The feeling of her inner world and her outer world finally being in alignment. It was a feeling, she said, that was more peaceful than any yes she had ever given. Now, not every story will end this simply. Some people will push back. They have benefited from your lack of boundaries. Your new voice is an inconvenience to them. And this reveals a difficult but liberating truth. A relationship that can only survive on your self-betrayal is not a real relationship. It is a contract. You provide endless compliance, and in return, they provide conditional approval. When you stop holding up your end of the bargain, the contract may be broken. And while this can bring grief, it is a necessary grief. It is the process of clearing space. You are making room for connections that are not based on your utility, but on your true self. You are inviting people to be in a relationship with the real you, not with your exhausted representative. What if saying no is actually the most respectful thing you can do? Think about it. When you say yes, but your body and soul are screaming no, you're not being kind. You're being dishonest. You are showing up with resentment simmering just below the surface. You are giving from a place of depletion. The other person may get what they want in the moment, but they're not getting you. They're getting a ghost, a mask. A true, clean, respectful no is far more loving than a resentful, inauthentic yes. A no that comes from a place of self-respect says, "I value our connection enough to be honest with you. I cannot give you what you are asking for right now because I must first honor my own well-being. And I respect you enough to believe that you can handle my truth." This is a radical reframing. It takes the act of saying no out of the realm of selfishness and places it in the realm of sacred self-stewardship and relational honesty. You are not pushing people away, you are ending the performance. You are finally giving them the opportunity to meet you, the real you, the one who has needs and limits and a voice, the one who is worthy of rest, the one who is worthy of their own time, their own energy, their own life. This is the person who has been waiting patiently behind the mask of nice for so long. And the journey of learning to say no
is simply the journey of letting them come home.
Today, we have walked a sacred path together. A path that leads from the frantic, silent calculation in the mind to the quiet, grounding wisdom of the body. We have journeyed from a place of feeling like a victim of our own kindness to understanding that the fawn response was never a weakness, but a brilliant, outdated survival skill. It was the armor that kept a younger version of you safe, but you are not in that battle anymore. And carrying that armor is now heavier than any fight you might face. We have seen through Jennifer's story how this old programming plays out, turning a simple request into a perceived threat. And we have received 3 gentle invitations to begin writing a new story. The somatic sigh, to speak the language of safety to your nervous system. The sacred pause, to reclaim the space between a request and your response. And the micro-boundary, to gather small pieces of evidence that your authenticity will not lead to abandonment. The journey of learning to say no is not about becoming hard. It is not about building walls. It is about the courageous, tender act of finally defining yourself. It is about learning that your well-being is not a selfish luxury, but the essential foundation from which all true generosity flows. You deserve to feel safe in your own body. You deserve to honor your own needs. You deserve to take up your own space in this one precious life you have been given. So here is your invitation for this week. It is not to change your whole life overnight. It is to start with one single courageous breath. Find one tiny, low-stakes opportunity to practice. Perhaps it's saying no to a second cup of coffee. Perhaps it's stating a simple preference for a movie or a song. Perhaps it's letting a non-urgent call go to voicemail and calling back when you are ready. Choose your micro-boundary, and when that familiar wave of guilt rises, as it surely will, meet it with a somatic sigh. Remind that part of you, I am safe. It is okay. Stay with the discomfort for just a moment longer than you think you can, because on the other side of that discomfort is a feeling you may have forgotten. The quiet, solid, unshakable feeling of integrity. The feeling of coming home. As you do this work, as you practice these small acts of reclamation, you are not just learning a new skill. You are beginning a profound process of unbecoming. You are unlearning the lifetime of conditioning that told you your value was in your utility to others. You are slowly, gently dismantling the identity of the people-pleaser. But this raises a new and perhaps even more profound question. Once you start to clear away the performance, once you are no longer defined by your service to others, who is left? Who is the I that is learning to say no? What does she want? What does she love? What makes her feel alive? For so many of us who have lived as pleasers, this is a terrifying void. We have become strangers to our own inner landscapes. And that is the next chapter of our work together. To move beyond just setting the boundary and to begin discovering the beautiful, authentic self who lives within it. We have learned how to build the fence. Now, we must get to know the garden. In the spirit of taking that first step, I invite you to make a gentle declaration. Share in the comments below. What is one micro-boundary you are willing to try this week? Let's witness and support each other in this courageous first act. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. This is where the real journey begins.